Oh, there I am. Hey, hey, hey. It is Friday, August 22nd, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the West Coast. I am Brannon. So this is Success Never Sleeps, where we as a collective of business owners, in particular, martial arts school owners, try to figure out this thing called life. We open these businesses, we build these businesses to sustain our lives. But in worst case scenario, you create a job for yourself and you're a terrible boss. That's a bad day. So really, through the learning that I offer through my 35 years of owning different small businesses and continue to do so today, I share with you what works for me. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of homework. I study companies, as I'll share today, like Apple, Disney, Nike, to bring to you what I believe is the type of information that can help you create your version of success. So I'm so grateful you recognize that and you choose to be here. So let's recognize our sponsors. Our sponsors. Who do we have? Tucson, Market Muscles, My Studio, Kids Love Life Skills, LC Accounting, and Kin Creative. I saw Stephen Reinstein's got something new to roll out. He's realizing more and more people want to be empowered with the advent of AI to gather the information for themselves and make their own decision without being influenced by a salesperson. To me, that's where we're all heading. And I'm going to say that passionate because people have more faith in ChatGPT than they do a salesperson at the end of that phone. So to be able to recognize that and begin creating your own AI assistants, which is what my studio is doing. I took one of their assistants the other day, opted into their test website, and me and this AI bot went at it. We freaking went at it. I asked things like, is there a Starbucks nearby? What do you do with the uniform, after I use it? All these questions, and it had really definitive answers for me. So through the learning and you feeding it, you can create these AI assistants that will answer anybody's opt-in with text and email within milliseconds of them opting in and give them the information they need to be empowered to make that decision. As Stephen Reinstein says, and I agree with it passionately, research Rita. You want to have the best lead in the world? Research Rita. And Research Rita is the one who's going to do her homework and know more about your school than you possibly can. Bob Poole. There you are, Bob, from Goals Martial Arts. Glad you're here, Bob. As people are coming aboard, please put in your name, the name of your school where you're tuning in from. And so all of my sponsors, I feel, are on that edge. Again, Stephen Reinstein's implementing something I think we visited years ago with him, about asking the right questions, giving the right information to people so they can decide on their own whether they want to make the next step or not. Another one of our sponsors, Kin Creative, who I write copy for and graphics and consult that team. How many times do we realistically want to pursue a lead before they get pissed off and say, leave me alone, right? I don't want to be in that position with a lead. So what can we do? How can we leverage humanism to understand that this human being only wants 3 texts, or this one wants a phone call after text number 5, on and on and on. I believe that's crucial because if you got a service that you're utilizing and they're telling the VC or whoever they're talking to, stop calling me, stop texting me. I already told you, and forget it. They're not even going to do business with you at that point. So I know there's a lot of salespeople out there that say, no means maybe and maybe means yes. You just haven't removed the obstacles and convinced them to buy. Well, what is that point? I don't think it's an exact science yet, but more and more AI gathers that data. They'll know not to text you for 3 days and then follow up with another text, maybe 3 or 4, and then back off again and send you an email 2 days later, whatever the case may be. But if you're at the point where people going, don't call me, right? And I know they tell us in our industry, that's what you got to do, right? That's a numbers game. You stay on them until they either tell you F you, or they opt out. I don't want to be in that position with people. I don't think it's a good representation of my business. So I applaud my studio. I applaud Kin Creative. I applaud Market Muscles because I think that's the big unicorn, right? That's the big holy grail in our business is marketing properly, marketing in the right way. Because we all got to get new students, right? So we need qualified leads coming through the door. And that's what's motivating all of this. Because when I got back from Japan, the first thing I recognized for myself, for my soul, that some marketing was extremely subtle And some marketing, they banged you over the head. And what I saw with the newer products, they bang you over the head. The ones that are tested and proven and have a strong reputation, they weren't banging you over the head. They weren't calling out other schools, other businesses. They weren't comparing the two. None of it. None of it. None of it. Yeah, Marco, not only will they not do business with you, they will tell others about their experience. They will. They absolutely will. Research shows that a customer who has a bad experience tells an average of 9 to 15 people about it. And about 13% are unhappy customers to more than 20 people. Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think it's a cultural thing. We do everything we can to satisfy our customers. And it's not, well, the customer is not always right, or the customer's always right. I think it's really in our schools having that mindset that we want to find a positive solution. And if we can do that for you, then we can know passionately, if you choose to leave us, that's because we simply weren't a good fit. But we need to bend over backwards. We need to have systems culturally in place that exemplify service at the highest level. So I saw that a lot in Japan, who is supposedly 2 years ahead of us in fashion, marketing, technology, all those types of things. So it's a unique opportunity to be there on vacation, but also study different brands and how they behave. And so that's what we're all going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to tell you it's Time Live Freedom, November 8th through 11th, starting to book up. Yay! You want to come for 4 days. 4 days will change your life. It's a perfect setup for 2026 to get you ready. You spend 4 days with 20 school owners, me and my team, it'll change your life. Because we do work on systems, staff development, branding, social media, all levels of marketing, personal development, wealth building, everything it takes to be a happy, whole, successful business owner. Big difference. There's a lot of people that are financially successful, but are emotionally empty. We want to create, this opportunity for you to discover all these different parts of you so you can enjoy the challenges as well as the triumphs. So you have the discipline, the consistency to build a great brand over time. And that requires this very intimate retreat environment. Right now, you can save $199 off. Go to the link Marco puts there and enter in the code FREEDOM when you check out and save yourself a couple $100. But we're starting to book, folks. So it's time for you to reserve your spot now. Cool. And then our mentoring, that's coming along slowly but surely. Anything great is built over time. We're not consultants, we are mentors. And our purpose is to be with you 24/7, 365. We go through what you go through each and every day. So I encourage you to schedule a discovery call. Talk to one of us on the team and see if we're a good fit for you. And everything's month to month. Spend a month with us and let's see, right? Discovery call. And that's simply what it is. So what's everything about today, right? What's your story? You hear that all the time in movies, in life, a casual conversation. Somebody will look at you and say, what's your story? What's your story? Now, I believe a lot of people in our industry do not pursue it because they've been told this by salespeople. Nobody gives a crap that you've won umpteen championships. And nobody gives a crap what style of martial arts you teach. Nobody gives a crap, that you're a third generation martial artist and your father taught you and your grandfather taught your father. Nobody gives a crap. All they care about is what's in it for me. Are you going to teach my children focus? Are you going to help me lose weight? I beg to differ. I beg to differ. So write that down because I think that's the big thing stopping people or why they give it no credence, right? They simply go, so who cares? It's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. And when I do my seminar on branding and I take a name like Family Taekwondo, if you Google it, you'll find them all across the nation. And it's Family Taekwondo. And then you use a silhouette of somebody kicking. Maybe you can find some examples, Marco, and we can pop them up there without being calling people out. And when I look at that, the challenge with that is there's no story there. There's nothing unique about you, right? And if I, as a consumer, cannot differentiate you from Joe Karate down the street, then I, as a consumer, base my buying decision upon two things. One, who's closer to my house, right? For convenience. Two, who's cheaper. Closer and cheaper. That is not a relationship you want to invest in. It's the most low barrier entry of a relationship. And it's also why I believe For the majority of martial arts schools, including us, our highest attrition rate is 0 months to about 18, right? 0 to 6 is the worst, but all the way up through month 18. Because the thing I gather from that data is, number one, we do anything to get them in the door. We'll sell the farm, as somebody who says, right? Free uniform, free this, free that. How about this, right? We do all these incentives and give it to them. Then you have that buyer's remorse, right? The honeymoon period. Once it's over, they recognize this was just a bunch of sales tactics. Your product is flimsy, your curriculum is weak, and that creates a whole another situation. You with me? Who's with me on that? Raise your hand. And again, this is data. Data doesn't lie. I'm not just making up this stuff. Cool? And as you're coming aboard, I want to see who's here today hanging out. This is a rough one because, again, most people don't find credence. So I really want to applaud anybody that chooses to be here with me today. Of course, when we do an episode of how to get 10 more students, everybody and their mother comes to listen. But what I learned right away when I threw my hat in the arena 25 years ago into this industry to make it my business and my life, I didn't care for what was out there. Everything was upgrade programs, black belt clubs, masters clubs, accumulative belt testing fees, right? Upgrades, as I shared, built-in retail sales scripts. I can't believe the number of sales scripts. I think some school owners spend more time practicing sales scripts than they do practicing martial arts. It's just appalling. So we really had that thing. I remember back in the 80s when Karate Kid was big, you could do no wrong. Ricardo! Long time no hear, my friend. How are you, Ricardo, from New Jersey? Hope you come to It's Time. I have a picture of me giving you a hug, or you giving me a hug, or it's just giving each other a hug. And it's a very memorable moment in my life. Thank you, sir. And at that time when Karate Kid came out, we realized kids were a big commodity. I wasn't teaching commercially. At that time, I owned a different business, but I was still training and teaching for my dad and a few other schools. You could do no wrong. You could hang a handwritten sign on the front of your garage saying, learn like the Karate Kid. And everybody was lined up at that door because everybody wanted to be Ralph Macchio and the Karate Kid. Well, once that faded away, the trend, the hype, right? Once that passed, then people were left with, what do we do? You had two schools. One school went this way and became the sales-driven, terrible martial arts, just simply sales-centric, and this side went the other way. And they became, more of the art strictly, and they hovered around 70 to 100 students. Now, that guy is still there 50 years later, or 80s, 40, 50 years later. He's still there. He's still there. But what I've seen is this huge shift. The people that have not only survived, but thrived, where they take good, responsible marketing and they meld that with good service, good product, good instruction, everything. So you have this really neat hybrid. And I get to work with people like that every day. And I love it. I love it because you do have to market your product. You do. Hear me? You have to market your product. And storytelling is probably one of the most authentic ways to do that because it brings humanism to the plate. If everything is simply build rock solid confidence in your marketing, because that's what ChatGPT says is the most used way to get, a parent interested in your classes, stop it. Stop it. Listen to me. Stop it. Because you will never become the great storyteller you need to be as the leader of your school, right? We're in a very unique position as martial artists because as the head instructor, you are the leader of the band. You are the one setting the tempo. You are the one that inspires the team. You are the one that go to the parents and help build these relationships. So you're in a very, 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 very unique position. And if you have truth, you really believe in the stories that you're sharing, then they become authentic. They become truthful, right? Or the yin to the yang of that sarcastically is, you're just making up stories, right? And people do that all the time. And they fabricate things that aren't true, that don't exist, that have nothing to do with anything. It's just what they're told to do. Worst case scenario, I see at your website, you post a backlink to a parenting magazine. Why would you do that? It has nothing to do with your brand. Or even worse, You copy and paste stuff from me. I've seen people take my blogs and put their name on it. And there is no attention to your brand. There's no storytelling there whatsoever. And I don't say that, in a derogatory way. If you Google right now, martial arts blog, who comes up top? Me. I do. And someone asked me, how did you do that? Did you use some, I don't know, hyperlinks or some SEO tricks? I said, no. All I did was write once a month a real good newsletter, and I wrote a blog. That's it. That's all I've done is write this blog every month. And over time, Google has decided that I have one of the top martial arts blogs. Now, why does that work? Of course it works for the school. It positions me as an authority, as an expert in my field, right? That's very powerful. And it helps my SEO. If I have the number one martial arts blog, and that martial arts blog is at onemartialarts.com, you don't think that helps my SEO? Of course it does. But from the beginning of time, I was a songwriter. I was a poet. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. I enjoy. That's my purpose too. I enjoy that as an art form. I enjoy that as a way to communicate and express myself. I love it. But I saw that a long time ago. And when I was telling school owners that 15 years ago, they looked at me like, you're crazy. You're crazy. All I want to do is teach martial arts. I get it. So read your sales scripts to the next person walking through the door. So if you look at the great storytellers through time, and three that I name passionately all the time, Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, and Nike Phil Knight. These are three people I lean into, I pay attention to. I think I got Phil Knight's book here somewhere. Yeah, right here. See? You want to read a great book? Shoe Dog, Phil Knight. And, that's a plug for you, Phil. What I saw, and Disney, it was from the beginning of time, because what did Disney do? He was an animator. He made Steamboat Willie. He made cartoons. So Disney, in his mindset, in his thought process, in his creative process, always started with what? A storyboard. A storyboard, right? So you got these different empty squares on a piece of paper, opening scene, cut to, next scene, cut to, next scene. And you could script this out. But what I saw when I took the Disney business course was I saw the flow. There was a very deliberate step 1, step 2, step 3, beginning, middle, end of the story, resolution. So in our case, as I was talking to my social media guy at Kids Love Life Skills this morning, I said, define your demographic. 2, acknowledge their challenge. 3, position your martial arts school as the solution. That's kind of like the beginning, middle, and end of a movie, isn't it? Right? It opens up, we establish characters. Then we go into the antagonist, the protagonist. We go through what their challenges are, what they're facing, and then there's the resolution and the ending. So if you can copy at your website, your description on your Google business page, right? Your about on your Facebook business page, anything that you do, if you can understand who your demographic is, what their needs or concerns are, and best position your martial arts instruction as a solution, that's a very simple template to work from. I didn't create it. It's been around since the beginning of time. Now, you guys want to go a step further? You want to talk about, can I say that, Marco? Badass? That's okay. Badass, disruptive, freaking futuristic, way, way, way beyond the norm of normal thinking was Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs. We know the formula. I just shared it with you. Identify your demographic, right? Probably a mom with a 6 to 12-year-old kid. Their challenge, I need my kid to be confident so they don't get bullied. They need focus so they can pay attention, do better at school. I want them to be respectful so they listen to me and do what they're supposed to do at home, right? Pretty standard. And we are that institution. We are that learning experience. We are the school that can help you achieve just that. We are. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And if you can solve those three things, you're in a better chance of getting research Rita than anybody else. So let me tell you a story. We're in a meeting, right? Apple headquarters. Steve Jobs is talking to his team. right, of developers and coders and designers. And he says, we're going to make this thing. Now, it's going to be smaller than a personal computer, right? So it's convenient. Take it, easy access. But it's going to be bigger than an iPhone. You're going to be able to be Wi-Fi ready. You're going to be able to draw on it, work on it, even use it like a phone. It's going to be internet accessible. Download your apps, watch movies, do everything on this thing. Now, we're going to call it the iPad, which is better known as a tablet. But the neat thing was at the time when Steve Jobs was conceptualizing this and talking about it, there were no iPads. There were no iPads. But what he did do was tell the narrative of taking that PC, right? Taking that iPhone and creating this hybrid. See, and that's smart business. And this is why I'm going to challenge school owners. Stay with me. I watch school owners jump from program to program to program to program. Whatever's new and shiny at the convention, they're implementing whatever it is, raccoon kung fu kids, or they're using, acrobatic karate, or next, they're doing some version of Krav Maga or someone's MMA program. The challenge with that, you're stopping and starting, stopping and starting. It takes time for a new program to get legs, to build trust, and to grow. So my question to most school owners is, which one of your programs are performing the best? Well, youth karate, ages 6 to 11, and double down on that. Go deeper, refine it, redefine it, tell a different story. Because isn't that what Disney does? Now, hold that thought about Steve Jobs, Marco. Bring me back to it in a minute. Isn't that what Disney does? Every Disney movie, somebody dies. Lion King, Mustafa dies. Frozen, right? The parents die in that boat thing. Cinderella, parents weren't even there, right? It was raised by the stepmother and her terrible stepsisters. On and on. And then there's a nemesis, there's an antagonist. And in the end, boy gets the girl or girl gets the boy, and everybody lives happily ever after. That story has been told from Snow White, to Mulan, to The Frog and the Prince, to, go on and on and on. On and on. It's just been told different ways. Same thing here. As we revamp our curriculum for the 4th or 5th time, we're not veering that far from the story. We're just retelling the story of our curriculum in a way that's more palatable. Post-pandemic kid, learning is different. Parents' demands are becoming different, right? But it's still Kenpo karate that I learned when I was freaking 5 years old. So that, I think, is one of the bigger mistakes people make in our industry. They're always jumping ship and going to something else. Like I say, the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. That's it. All day, every day. No more, no less. So another great way to express that is, life is hard. You choose your hard. So you can stick with your curriculum and go deeper and make it better. You could look at your systems and rewrite them, right? You could look at your brand and redefine it, or you can abandon it all and start all over. That I don't always recommend unless the house needs an overhaul, right? Got to tear down the house and start over. So going back to Steve Jobs, that's what he did. He didn't, if you look at Apple products, they're not earth-shattering distances from each other, right? The iPod was huge. Remember that? The iPod is now in an iPad. The iPod is now in an iPhone. You can have tons and tons of music, and you use, AirPods. So the iPod wasn't far-fetched. So stop to think about that. How much different in today's world is an iPad from a personal PC and a MacBook Pro? There's very strong similarities. Think of the iPhone, right? Compared to an iPad. They both have cameras. So again, I don't think they veered off. Now they have their own VR, right? Like everybody does, but it's not nearly as successful, as impactful as the iPad, the iPhone, and the iMac, the MacBook Pro, right? Those are their core products. So that's the thing that I got out of that. But bigger than that, stay with me now. I talked about you identify your demographic, you identify their challenge or pain point is what sales. I don't like pain point. So I like challenges, needs. It's so much better. And then you position your service as a solution, right? As a solution. But what Steve Jobs did in that moment, he said, and what I saw, he was creating something people needed before they ever knew they needed it. Oh, anybody with me? Put it in the comments. I want to know, do you get that? Do you see that? Now, people say, what the hell does that have to do with getting 10 more students? It's a mindset. It's a thinking. It's a thinking. I'm going to tell you what I did recently, and it's small, it's small, but powerful, powerful. Put it in the comments if you got that last Steve Jobs thing. And then I want you to tell me what you think, how it can impact our industry, because I'm going to give you my story of how it impacted me. Our kickboxing program, we've had for 25 years, right? Between San Francisco and 10 years in Millbrae. It's been waning. It's been waning. And I'm going, we revisit this format. We tighten it up. We add bands when TRX was big, and we added weights when cross training was big. And, we took the weights away now, and we took away the bands and what's trending now. So we try to incorporate trend parts, because in the fitness industry, we know trends come and go, but when they're here, they generate a lot of revenue and interest. So you can't ignore the trends in the fitness industry. I wouldn't. I don't recommend it, because that's the way that industry behaves. And we are part of the fitness industry when it comes to things like fitness, kickboxing, boxing class, whatever. So what I did, which we do every year, but this time when I revisited it, I really went deeper on it. I tried to understand, why was nobody responding to this? So what we did was this. Every Mother's Day, every Father's Day, we give our parents one free month, right? If it's karate, we give you a uniform. If it's kickboxing, we give you boxing gloves. And we let you enjoy one free month. Pretty simple. One free month. That's it. One free month. That is what we do. And this time, though, we were in a better position instructor-wise. We understood who the demographic was coming in. And we also sweetened the pot. We allow them to bring the kids. And since we have the camp room, we have that extra room, right? The activity room, the party room. We set up Legos and Netflix. We even make popcorn for the kids. And now our kickboxing classes are packed. Go figure. But all we did was take a core product, which has been around for 25 years between two locations, and we reinvented it. We went deeper on it. And lo and behold, I didn't realize this small phenomena was taking place, because I was in Japan and Vegas. I taught Thursday night. I'll post the video after this. I'm like, damn, there's like 15 people in this room. And we've been averaging, what, 5 to 10, right? And at $189 a month, that's additional revenue for fitness kickboxing a month, and have weights and everything, right? So think about that for a moment. And so we're trying to really promote a very high-end product, and we have to convince people it has that value. So now we have momentum, and we'll continue to lean into that. Facebook ads, right? Posting responsibly. I'm even going to San Francisco on Sunday to teach a class. I haven't taught there in a decade now. A decade I haven't taught there. And I'm going to teach a kickboxing class. So you see, that's how taking a learning from Steve Jobs, right? Not all 50,000 billion products. He took a product, made it better, an iPad. I took a product that I believe in, our fitness kickboxing program, and I reinvented it. That's it. And now that the train's out of the station, we have a little bit of momentum. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to continue to nurture that, promote it, market it. And that feels really good. For a while, it felt like that new program, that you're starting that has freaking 5 people in it, right? I want to start a new morning 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu class. And you're trying to build that thing. That's much harder to do than to take an existing program, revisit it, reinvent it, update the curriculum, train your team better, incentivize it with something like Kids Love Life Skills. We got the merit badge, coloring sheet, student parent handout, instructor handout, and just take it to another level. Another level. So that's the big thing when it comes to storytelling. If you look at Disney movies, if you look at Apple products, They're not totally writing some whole new story. Look at Stephen King novels. They're all the same horror, fictional things. And look at Harry Potter. Look at I've watched every Harry Potter movie with my daughter. We did that during the pandemic. And every one of them has a similarity in characters, in structure, in script. They have a very similar feel, because if you totally veer off and you don't get the same, exact Harry Potter, or at least close to it, people are pissed. They have certain expectations, which leads me to Disney. Okay. You go to Disneyland and you notice, right? We did this in I didn't see it so much in Tokyo and Disneyland in Tokyo or Disney Sea. But if I go to LA, the original, and I walk around Disneyland, you're going to see people in their 70s alone with mouse ears walking around. So you go, what the heck, right? What the heck? They have no grandchildren. They have no kids in tow. What the hell are they doing here? Right? Disney set the clear expectation when they were children, when they were middle schoolers, high schoolers, when they went there in college, when they went there with their significant other, when they went there with their kids, when they went there with their grandkids, and they're going here now as seniors. Why? Because they want to replicate that Disney experience one more time. One more time. Now, Disney has had add-ons. They bought up Marvel. They bought up Pixar. And they own Star Wars. But make no mistake, Disneyland is still Disneyland. The core product is really, really solid. So it's the same thing here. When you look at what you do in your school, yeah, and Harry Potter is just Star Wars with wands. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely, right? And so when you think about it, even what Disney buys up, you don't see Disney. Well, they bought up ESPN, right? Which was a very bold move. And, they've co-branded with Nike on a couple of things. And, but ultimately Disneyland is Disneyland. Cool? So tell me in the comments right now, what are your big takeaways up to this point? What are your big takeaways? And for those of you, coming on for the first time, please subscribe to the show, follow the show, share it with your friends. We want to continue to grow our audience. Cool? Make sure you subscribe at YouTube for Success Never Sleeps. Now, Phil Knight. Wow. My journey with Nike has been a very different one. During the pandemic, I invested in a company called Relevant Brands at that time. And I like startups. So I went with this one startup, and it didn't pan out the way I wanted. But the best part of it, because, you put money in a startup, you can make money or lose money, right? We're clear on that. But stay with me on this. What I was able to do out of it is I met a gentleman that had worked for Nike. I don't want to name drop because that's not the way I roll. But I was able to hire this man to visit with him once a week for about an hour and a half. I would drive an hour and a half just to get there. And I would sit with him and he would teach me about branding, right? I paid $5,000 a month for about 6 months. And he taught me about branding and how Nike, which is, I think, one of the most iconic brands in the world. Think about it, from Michael Jordan to Kobe, now Caitlin Clark. I mean, Nike is freaking Nike, right? Nike. And they would have had Steph Curry. You guys know that, right? But as the story goes, I don't know if you can verify it, they called him Stephen Curry in the meeting. And his family was so disenchanted. You want to offer me this big deal and you don't even do your homework and don't know my name, right? Google it. Maybe I'm wrong, Marco. Maybe you need to chat GPT that one. They would have had Steph Curry too. So Nike is one of those brands that have sustained. But I've watched Nike's pivot in storytelling. What did it start out with, right? Nike. And Nike is some kind of Greek thing, right? Greek mythology. And then, the swoosh. And then, the just do it. So Nike has told their story a lot of different ways to get to what it is. It didn't start that way. What is Nike? What is Nike by itself? Right? But they understood that. For my story, 19 years old, School of Chinese Kempo Karate, gone in 9 months. 19, I was an idiot. I was competing a lot. I beat up all my students. I was closed at 9 months. But when I opened the second time, years and years later, in the year 2000, and the other one was in the 1990s. When I finally opened that school, I still didn't know anything. I called it One Health and Fitness. That was my story. I wanted an East meets West gym where people can do Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, karate, whatever, right? There'd be a massage therapist on site. There'd be a juice bar with all these herbal teas and green drinks. Can't do that in 2,000 square feet on Terrebonne, where the school is today. No way. No way. No. No way. Not going to happen, right? Let's see. Let's look at this really quick so I don't lose that thought. When Nike pitched Steph Curry during a contract renewal meeting around 2013, they made sloppy errors. Reports say the PowerPoint presentation included Kevin Durant's name instead of Curry's. Wow. Which made it look like Nike didn't take him seriously. That left a bad impression on Curry and his family. Well, yeah, that's even worse. Call me Steven. Call me Steven. All right, but don't do that. And so going back to that, there was no way it wasn't. And I got tired of people calling my school and saying, do you have showers and towels? Because One Health and Fitness sounds like a gym, a fitness gym. So once we changed it to One Martial Arts, which the reason I did it, one is the highest acknowledgement of excellence in business. That's why we have Card One, we have Medical One, right? We have Club One, on and on and on. So I knew I was onto something great, right? But it didn't have the just do it. So there's Nike by itself. That's not very inspiring. Nike with a swoosh, not in the beginning, but the minute they came up with just do it, Nike freaking whole nother level. Same thing with us. The minute we got rid of One Health and Fitness, we became One Martial Arts. Then we added in Live Your Best Life. We made $1 million within 2 years. And that was my first goal, was to generate $1 million of revenue in that one location. That was it, because growing up poor, songs, I want to be a millionaire, right? That was the whole thing. I used to think $1 million was a lot of money. But do you see the evolution of the story? And that's what I got from Nike. So coming back to Nike now, and this is great branding. And I want you to take note, write it down, do what you need to do. So one of the first meetings we did, I sat down with this guy and he had a whiteboard and he said, tell me why people should come do business with you. What makes your business unique, right? Third generation family owner. We serve people well. Then we got into the emotions. We teach gratitude, empathy, all these things. So pretty soon I had this whole whiteboard filled up with all these different things, all of them. Then he said, now you can choose 9 of them to define your company. Holy shit, right? Defines your brand. Then he said, you have to choose 3. And it really just that simple thought process trimmed away the fodder, trimmed away my insecurities, trimmed away all the BS. And at the end of the day, we had 3 solid things. And for me, live is so important. You'll hear me profess, I don't want to survive, I want to live. I don't want to survive, I want to live. Yours. What is yours, right? What is yours? There's so much we do for other people. Right? Today, I'm a father, I'm a business owner, but what is mine? Because mine is what feeds me, the id. If you look that up, the id, ID, it feeds me, right? And if I can feed me, everybody benefits. As I say, what good am I to anybody if I'm not good to myself, right? Best, that's so subjective, right? What is your best? What is your best? That's a lifelong journey and process. And then, of course, life. The day you're born, the day you die, your life is that little dash in between. And that's where Live Your Best Life was born from. Right? I know Oprah's used it, a couple people have used it, but for us, it has very, very, very deep, deep, deep meaning, especially me, right? I live, I don't survive. What I've cultivated is because it's mine. It's my version of success, not anybody else's. Best, I define best all the time. Well, I think what ties it together consistently is discipline, right? My consistent discipline, no matter what best is that day, whether it's making sure I work out or making sure I'm attentive to my wife or making sure I listen to my team better, best for me is ever evolving depending upon the circumstance. But because it's evolving, I need something to anchor it. And it's anchored in the consistent discipline, that commitment to excellence. And of course, life. Life. We each have our own life, ups and downs, joys, failures, successes. So that is yours. And nobody can tell you how to live your life. So once we define that, storytelling becomes even more and more defined to fit the brand of One Martial Arts. So answer this question then. How do you think everything I've shared with you up to this point is going to get you 10 more students? Go. Put it in the comments. How do you think what I've shared with you up to this point will help you get 10 more students? While I wait for the comments, going back, if I see family taekwondo with a silhouette of a guy kicking and every other school in my community pretty much resonates that, my buying decision is based upon who's closer to me and who's cheaper. Two places I don't believe you can build a sustainable relationship with. You simply cannot. You cannot. No, you cannot. But again, I don't think this is higher learning. I just think it's learning that's abstract to the martial arts industry, for the majority, because we're still following sales scripts and upgrades, and we're limited to just systems and staff development. Those are forever. But I believe it's that je ne sais quoi, that thing up here, that might be the one thing you're missing. The one thing you're missing. And that I get to see every day in our industry. The guy who's been around 10, 20, 30 years, and he's still at 100 students, and he's still scratching his head. I don't know why. Because there's some things that are as obvious that aren't promoted in our industry, right? That we need to start looking into. I know for me, it's made a huge difference. I figured if someone like an Apple or Disney or Nike, these are what billion-dollar companies. Is Apple a trillion-dollar company, Marco? Take a look at their net worth. I believe Apple's a trillion-dollar company. If I could borrow even, 1% of what they do and cultivate it into my business, that my potential success has just incrementally been raised, right? Apple's one of the highest stocks. It's one of the top 10 stocks, I believe. So if Apple's in that position, could I borrow? As of August 22nd, here we go. Apple's market capitalization stands at approximately 3.38 trillion. So if I could even take $10 million of their ideas and thinkings and strategies, culturally and business-wise, I think I have a better chance of succeeding. Why? I'm going to tell you why again. Again, people think I'm a little crazy, and maybe I am. How many people in your school have an iPhone? Go. How many of your parents, instructors, and students have an iPhone? Give me a percentage. What's yours, Marco? What's your percentage? If you had to say how many people had iPhones, MacBook Pros, anything like that. Anything. Okay. In Marco's family, it's 100%. How about your school? How about your school? How about you, Bob? What do you got for me? And this is super important. So that's why I'm using this example. In our school, it's closer to 70%. Tina, it forces me to focus on the community of our business, my commitment and student expectations of service. Sure, but stay with me now. If you have 75% of your families using iPhones, MacBook Pros, iPads, you have 100% of your family. My family is 100%. We have iPhones, MacBook Pros, and iPads all over my house. What is Apple done? They understand how their demographic thinks. And same thing with Disney. Same thing with Disney. The one I'm studying now is Japan. I found out, through conversation, a lot of our families in Millbrae go to visit Japan for vacations. Huh. What a trip, right? They go to vacation in Japan. So should I study the Japanese market a little bit? I think so. I think so. So again, these companies like Apple, the majority of our demographic in our schools are using Apple. That says a lot, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? I want you to think about that because borrowing from Apple and Disney, and if I look at the kids' feet, I bet we're going to see a lot of kids wearing Nikes, right? A lot of kids wearing Nikes. So they've done the homework for us, right, Miss Tina? Nike, Disney, Apple has done the homework for us. They understand how that demographic behaves because they're getting them to buy it. Now, here's my thoughts on that. If I look at Apple, if I look at Disney, right? Disney in particular, that's not a need. That's a want. It's not a necessity, right? It's not a necessity, right? At all. So for me, understanding that makes me really, really, really look at Nike and Disney and Apple and say, wow, if they can behave that way, so should I. So should I. And so borrowing from them is a no-brainer. From a business viewpoint, it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer to buy philosophy from Apple or Nike or Disney. Now, I think the hard part, Miss Tina, Bob, is to take it and cultivate it into your schools and to make it work. That is the hard part. That is the hard part, right? That is the hard part. And so for me, I spend a lot of time when I work with clients to help them not only understand their brand and their why and their purpose and the demographic they serve, but also tap into that demographic. I'm going to tell you, if it's a part of the country and everybody eats at freaking Cracker Barrel, I'm going to take a look at Cracker Barrel for a minute. Are you with me on that? So look around your community, Marco. What's something everybody engages in? Now, Apple's a simple one, right? It's a simple one. But what is one thing in your community, Miss Tina, Marco, Bob, that everybody believes in, everybody eats, or everybody uses? What's something in your community that is not a want, it's a need? See, that's to me is the tipping point. The tipping point is when you got a whole community using this product or engaging in this service. It's become a need. It's no longer a want. And even if that need is to be with the cool kids, right? To be part of that trend, so be it. There was a moment in time everybody needed that damn Stanley mug. Remember that last year? Everybody needed the damn Stanley mug. Okay. Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Okay. So let's look at their story a little deeper now, right? Nobody needs a damn donut. Nobody needs that. But it became a need. Nobody needs coffee, but here I am, right? So how do we move from I want to do martial arts to I need martial arts? How do we do that? Again, Steve Jobs is creating something people needed before they ever knew they needed it. That to me is like the epitome of it all. Talk about that type of thinking, right? Right? I don't need coffee, but people around me need to have coffee. Well, you need to be around people who drink coffee. So think for a moment. And again, it's just simple because I like research. I like case study. And when I try to help school owners where my marketing on the surface doesn't work, it's because there's layers. And even though the stories are the same, the stories I tell in San Francisco, marketing wise, are still slightly different than the stories we tell in Millbrae. They're two separate communities that think a little differently, that behave a little differently. There are commonalities. And I can take a Facebook ad I run for San Francisco and run it for Millbrae. But if I want to get that higher level of connection, at some point I need to take that ad in San Francisco and bore down on a macro level. Heavy, right? But it's not. It's not. And as I look at our numbers today, I'm blessed and grateful to say we're on a path to do $2 million again. How do you do that year in and year out? right? Year in and year out, because we're constantly reinventing. We're constantly revisiting, refining, redefining. We're constantly telling our story better. And we're delivering on that story. Oh man, don't tell a story and it's a myth and they walk into your school and it's nothing like the story you told at your Google business page, website, Facebook post, Instagram, TikTok, Yelp, Nextdoor, however you communicate that. You got to back that up. You got to back that up, right? You got to back that up. And when we say we are one, a community dedicated to serving you, we better be a community. We had better be a community, right? Case in point, Saturday, we're at Green Hills Elementary. We're serving up cotton candy on their back to school family day. We don't make money off that. We invest in that. Will we promote our programs? Yeah, responsibly with the QR code. But we won't stand there and say, you want cotton candy? I need your name and email. That's not service, right? That's ulterior motives. I'll run black belt testing. That's something I always do, right? I don't see the students in San Francisco. So for them to have that touch point with me, to earn their black belt with me testing them, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't charge belt testing fee. It costs us a belt and a plaque, about $40 plus payroll. But again, don't scream that you're a community and not contribute to that community without any type of ulterior motive. Sunday, I'm going into San Francisco to teach a class, right? Community. Two of my guys are going to their something. They have, prior commitments. I'm teaching today in the school, right? I'm happy. I love doing that for my team. Love, 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 love. We're breaking in new after school people. And they asked if I would come in a couple of days this week. And I did. Systems and all. They needed support. They wanted to, have a lifeline. So I went in. And backed them up. You can't profess community and then not exemplify it. So I think that's the other thing about Disney, why that, couple in their 70s is there with mouth ears, because they trust that the story Disney told, from Steamboat Willie, right, to Snow White, to Disneyland, to Disney World, to Disney Tokyo, Disney Paris, wherever, it's a consistent story. And through the consistency is how we earn trust, right? Classic example of distrust. You're always changing your story. Who's heard that one? Put it in the comments. You're always changing your story. Help me out. Who's heard that? Marco, have you heard that before? You're always changing your story. Nobody? Just me? Come on now. Yeah, we've all seen people do it for sure. And that is why I believe this, What's Your Story, is such an important part of your business. But what are you going to do? Just spend more money on another company that's not going to tell your story, that's simply going to guarantee you 30 students in 30 days or your money back? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to buy another program that has nothing to do with your core values or your purpose and what you want to do in your martial arts school? Because you don't have the confidence, because you haven't practiced telling your story, and you haven't told your story again and again and again and again and again until it's refined and where it becomes a value, where it becomes your purpose. So you're going to simply divert your attention out of your own insecurity and fear and buy somebody else's program and put it into your story? I don't think so. And I watch this happen in our industry all the time. So I applaud you, those of you who chose to be here today. Again, What's Your Story on the surface isn't about getting 10 new students, but isn't it not only about getting 10 more students, but keeping the 10 you have and building a loyal following of people that don't just buy from you, but believe in you, right? I could watch that first Harry Potter movie with my daughter again and again and again, because during the pandemic, it gave us hope. It helped me believe, right? Getting lost in this Harry Potter movie. It helped me believe that there was normalcy in the world, right? In that fantasy world, right? That we could still be happy family and doing cool things. That's the first time I ever watched Harry Potter. I never watched it all these years. But during the pandemic, I did. And as I watched all of the movies with my daughter, and she kept going back to number one, number one, number one, number one. And then I watched number one with a fine tooth comb, and I began to see why. Because if you didn't believe in the first one, you probably wouldn't have made it to the second or the third or the fourth, right? I've been to Disney dozens of times, and the experience is the same, if not better, in certain moments. And so that's what we strive to do in our schools through a very clear storytelling. And that's what I do. I tell a story to my team. I tell a story to my parents. I tell a story to my students. I tell a story through social media. I tell a story. And through people wanting to read this story and finding interest in the story, they want to become part of that story. And they join our schools, or they sign up for my mentoring, or they come to my events. It's all because of storytelling that's led me to a TED Talk, a book, guesting on blogs, having the top martial arts blog at Google search, because I am a storyteller. I hope I shared that in such a good way with you, because I think if anything in life, much like journaling, right, just to keep your head straight and just to figure out who you are and what everything means to you, that becoming a great storyteller, not necessarily a writer, a great storyteller is only going to serve you on an emotional level, a personal level, a business level, a relationship level, and of course, on a monetary level. Let's thank our sponsors, Marco. Who do we have? We got My Studio, Market Muscles, LC Accounting, Kids Love Life Skills, Tusa, the best in martial arts supplies, and of course, Kin Creative. All people I love and work with. Do join us for It's Time Life Freedom. As you saw in today's topic, that's what we do. That's what we do. We're not thinking outside the box. There is no box. And this experience we create with It's Time Live and this incarnation of freedom will grant you just that. The freedom you deserve to create the life you deserve by creating a vehicle, your martial arts school, to work for you. Freedom is what it's all about. November 8th through 11th, right here in Millbury, California, 5 minutes from SFO. Go to that link Marco put in there, enter the code FREEDOM, and save $199 off the 4-day experience. Best way to get ready for 2026. I encourage you to be one of the 20 school owners. Schedule a discovery call with me and the team at It's Time Group Mentoring. Come join us. Spend an hour on the phone and see if it's a good fit for you. Because we are mentors, not consultants. We go through the things you go through every day, in real time, constantly cultivating solutions and strategies and systems to help you negotiate today's playing field as a martial arts school owner. Cool? Where do you find me? Man, lots of places to find me, huh? This podcast, Success Never Sleeps, is on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher. It's everywhere. So subscribe to this. There's probably hundreds and hundreds of hours of learning closing in on a decade that you could go through and find inspiration, strategy, systems, solutions to help you create your version of success. Cool? Go to brandonbeliso.com for everything else. I want to thank you for today. You hear my passion. You hear my learning. You hear my conviction for this area that I think creates an amazing brand and can really, really help you get unstuck. If your school's still where it is and you used everybody's system and program and nothing's moving that needle, I'm going to point the finger at you and let it come full circle. Cool? All right. I am Brannon Beliso. This is Success Never Sleeps. Until we talk again, please, you go out there, live your best life.